Second Dinner just announced the first series drop, which is happening on the 31st of January. These are going to be happening every month where a bunch of cards get relegated from Series 5 down to 4, Series 4 down to Series 3. Of course, this has a big impact on what cards you should be buying in the collector token shop. Also, we got some information on a couple of cards which are never getting relegated, and that really does switch up which cards I would advise you spending your tokens on. Do not buy Absorbing Man, She-Hulk, Titania, Luke Cage. These right now cost 3,000 tokens, and on the 31st of January, they're going to cost you just 1,000 and be much more available on the collection tree. Similarly, Valkyrie, Super Skrull, Shuri, Bast, and Black Panther are going from 6,000 tokens down to 3,000. So don't buy any of these cards until the 31st of January. You could consider pinning one if there's a particular one you want. I will also add that Shuri is a top contender to be getting nerfed quite soon. So you maybe just want to hold off until the next balance update to see what happens with her before you purchase. Okay, moving on. Agent Coulson is in the B tier for me. Not a card I would personally buy, but can see some competitive play. It is good in Dino decks. Not the most exciting card. I would personally avoid it, but if you love Dino decks, go for it. 3,000 tokens. Pretty likely to get relegated in February at the end of the month, but might not. Attuma, quite similar to Agent Coulson. You can make a case for Attuma in some competitive decks in a Destroyer deck. Like Dino, not the top deck in the meta, that's for sure. You could certainly do a lot worse than Attuma. It synergizes with Zero and Armor, both of which can find a decent place in Destroyer deck, so I think Attuma is pretty solid. Darkhawk up next. Now, Darkhawk for me is the most difficult one to rate because in terms of raw power, it's S tier. However, it is a card which is going to be costing 3,000 tokens in either March or April. I do think that this is probably the best card that you could buy right now, so I'm going to put it in the S tier. However, do bear in mind that it's it's going to cost half as much in a few months. But it's very, very powerful. You can combo it with Zabu. You can combo it with Mr. Negative. You can build an all-in deck with things like Mystique and Odin and Roxard and Korg. The card is pretty incredible. If you just want the best card and you don't really care how many tokens you want to spend, Darkhawk is the card you should go for. Up next, we have Dazzler. We're going to look at Dazzler a bit later because she is one of the new cards not in the game yet, and we can explain how she works. Galactus and Thanos have been confirmed to not be getting relegated ever, or at least for the very, very foreseeable future, because they are, and I quote, too dang epic. So Galactus and Thanos are going to be costing 6,000 tokens for the foreseeable future. So in theory, they are the best purchases you can make because they're not going down in value. With a card like Darkhawk, it's good in the short term, but in the long term, you are wasting tokens essentially. Whereas with Galactus and Thanos, the tokens you're spending now, in 6 months, you could still buy them for the same price. So that feels pretty good. I don't have either of these cards, and I'm pretty interested in picking both up. Galactus did just get nerfed. However, it got nerfed. I actually think he got made stronger. He's now 2 power. This makes it less likely for you to be going first on turn 6 after Galactus, meaning that you don't get Shang-Chi'd on your death. You can Shang-Chi your opponent's stuff, etc. So, yeah. Galactus could get reworked at some point. I wouldn't be too surprised. Thanos, therefore, I'm going to put ahead of him because Thanos just seems really well balanced and a very good card nonetheless. Up next, you have Helicarrier. Helicarrier, a lot of people are going to be expecting me to put in like C or B, probably B alongside Coulson and Attuma. Not a very good card, but a fun one. But I'm actually going to put it in the A tier. The reason for this is the Battle Pass card coming in February has a great amount of synergy with Helicarrier. I made a video on Modok, the Battle Pass card for February. If you haven't already seen it, check it out. It is a discard card, and Helicarrier seems like a great combo piece with it. So I would definitely advise you getting Helicarrier if you're looking at picking up Modok in February. And next you have Null. Null is a potentially very powerful card, but it costs 6,000 tokens. I'm going to put it in B tier because I do think it's a pretty good card when combined with Galactus. It's just incredibly expensive. If you don't have Galactus, I would avoid this card. If you do have Galactus already, you could maybe even put it into the A tier, right? But I think B tier is pretty justified for Null. If it was cheaper, it would be upper tier, but 6k is a big ask, that's for sure. Up next, we have Maria Hill, aka worst card in Series 4 and 5. Don't buy it. She is so bad. She is worse than M'Baku, who you should also not buy. But M'Baku's honestly not terrible, and he's pretty fun. Maria Hill's just garbage. Orca up next. Orca, the card which finally got added yesterday after it was a little bit bugged. It is buffing, I do believe, by 5 points if it's on its own in a location. So kind of like a better Namor that costs you 6. It's pretty garbage though, to be honest. I'm not going to put it in don't because it's 3,000 and you could have some fun with it. Maybe it deserves to go in don't, but because it's such a new card, I think that seems a little bit harsh. We'll put it in C. Like it's going to be fun. You can build a whole deck around it, right? It's a 6 cost finisher. It's a lot more interesting than a Maria Hill. But yeah, I wouldn't spend your tokens on it. Okay, let's look at the Sentry. Don't do it. It's 6k. I have the Sentry. I actually think the card is pretty underrated. It has a very high ceiling, but 6k is way too much to ask for this card. Just avoid. When it costs 3,000, you could consider it, honestly. Silver Surfer. If you didn't buy the Battle Pass, you shouldn't really be spending your tokens on this, to be honest, but it's going to go in the A tier. If you don't have it and you're a free-to-play player, for example, you didn't pick up the Battle Pass, it's 6k tokens, but it's a very, very good card. I wouldn't be too surprised, though, for Silver Surfer to be getting nerfed in the near future either. I do think it's pretty overtuned, so do bear that in mind. I mean, the same could happen for Darkhawk as well. Okay, finally we have the 3 new cards. Zabu, of course, is a Battle Pass card, not actually an option. Although Black Panther, which isn't in this list, is another card that you should be avoiding. So this just makes room for Black Panther. All right, Sauron, who came out today at the time of recording. Sauron is 3/3. On reveal, remove the abilities from all ongoing cards in your hand and deck. This card synergizes with Typhoid Mary, with Red Skull. The best thing this card does, though, is it lets you play Ebony Maw later. Also, your Lizard doesn't get decreased. So you're going to be playing Ebony Maw, Lizard, Red Skull, Typhoid Mary, and Zero if you're playing this deck. Interestingly, it's also going to remove the armor ongoing ability if it's in your deck. So you can just get flipping Shang-Chi. This card is so bad. Please do not buy it. I would love to be proven wrong. Of course, it's very, very early days. With Sentry, we kind of know it's bad. With Sauron, because I've played so many games with Sentry, with Sauron, mate, this card is hot garbage. Don't buy it. It's a waste of time and money. Shanna up next, the She-Devil. I think this card looks like a banger. It's the one I'm most excited for. I think I'm going to be picking her up myself. 4 energy, 2 stats. On reveal, add a random 1 cost card to each location. That is going to include the location you play her in. So you've got 4 bodies in 1 card, which is a whole bunch of points with Blue Marvel. Khazar, of course, going to synergize with Shanna. You could play this with Zabu as well, and Khazar, of course, very nice there. You could play Moon Girl for like double Khazar. This card seems insanely good. It is going to cost you 6k. I think this could go into the S tier, honestly. I think this card looks flipping good. I'm going to put it into the S tier because it's what I'm spending my tokens on, baby. I think it is looking really very nice indeed. But of course, hard to say if it's really that much better than Darkhawk, but I'm going to put it up there anyway. Okay, we have Dazzler, which comes out the following week. 4/4, ongoing, if you have 4 cards at each location plus 6 power. So it can be 10 stats for 4. That doesn't seem like a lot of points for such a difficult condition. I think that this could do with having a higher floor. So like maybe start at 6 points and buff by 5 or buff by 6. I think I'm putting Dazzler into the don't. Maybe, I just don't, right? Maybe, there's no way that is worth it, right? Like, look at Shuri, mate, right now. Shuri, all you need to do for Shuri to play for 8 points is play, what, a 5 stat card afterwards? No, that'll be 7. Okay, I'm not even going to do the maths because now I'm embarrassed. But you get my point. Don't buy the Dazzler. I next have Shadow King. Now, Shadow King, you can get tripped up, as I did when I recorded this video earlier, because it got reworked before release. It's now a 4 energy, 3 stat. It used to be like a 6 energy card, which would destroy all cards 2 power or less. Seemed really bad. Whereas now Shadow King is 4 energy, 3 stats. On reveal, set all cards here to their original base power. Now, the word here would suggest at this location, not all cards. So, kind of weird. You could Odin this card to catch your opponent off guard, perhaps. That could be an interesting approach. Is this good? You could hit Bishop. You could hit Angela with this. It's going to cost you 6,000 tokens. It's very difficult to evaluate. I'm going to put it in the B tier. In the B tier. It's pretty difficult to evaluate, right? Let's be honest. So, here's my tier list. I do think you could make a pretty big case to just bump these 2 guys down, to be honest, because like Galactus and Thanos are in their own lane. But We'll put them up here because they're not going to get downgraded anytime soon. They both came out in January, or Darkhawk in December, Shanna in Jan. So neither of these cards are getting downgraded anytime soon. They look like the two strongest cards available in Series 4 and 5, in my opinion. Shanna, of course, very difficult to evaluate. Zabu, also a pretty big contender to be getting nerfed, and both these cards synergize with Zabu. That's a big reason they're going to be so good. But I would say that Darkhawk and Shanna are your best bang for your buck. Well, in terms of raw power, Thanos and Galactus are the best purchases in terms of economy and efficiency. Helicarrier is a really nice pickup. Let's put Shadow King up here, maybe. It looks like fun, right? Nah, let's put it here. Helicarrier, really nice pickup because of Modok, the Battle Pass card for the next month. Silver Surface is great. Shadow King and Null are very expensive, but decent options. Agent Coulson and Attuma, pretty meh, but pretty cheap. Orca, just like super average. And then I just think that Dazzler, Sauron look pretty bad. And then Sentry, Baku, and Muriel, you should avoid at all costs. In terms of the other cards, just to add a little bit on where these cards would be, Absorbing Man would be in the S tier for me if it wasn't getting downgraded this month. I think it's absolutely busted right now with Spider-Man and Zabu. She-Hulk would also be up there in the S tier, although probably in the A tier for me. Titania would be in the B tier, Luke Cage in the B tier, Valkyrie in the B tier, Super Skrull in the D tier, Shuri in the S tier, Bast in the A tier, and Black Panther in the B tier probably, just to give you a bit of a rundown and where those cards would be. But again, they're getting relegated, so yeah, I would pick up Absorbing Man, She-Hulk, Titania, Luke Cage for sure next month. I think all four of those cards are very, very good. In terms of like 3,000 tokens, Valkyrie, Shuri, and Bast, as well as Black Panther, if you didn't get it, are really good. I would still avoid Super Skrull, and bear in mind Shuri could get nerfed. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you did, like it if you did, all of that. Nice one. See you on the next one. Deuces.